Hi, I think I'm live. Hi, whoever is joining me. I might wait a couple of minutes just to see who pops on. Give it a couple of moments. I'm actually a couple of minutes later than I thought I'd be. I thought I'd need to make myself another coffee this morning as we had a rough night last night with Jack. So I will wait a couple of moments because I don't think anyone's here with me at the moment. Um, Catch up with you. It's been a little while since I came live into the group. What's been going on here? It's been a busy old week already, and been lots of kind of toing and throwing from on my end of like what we're going to do with our house, whether we're going to move, whether we're going to stay where we are, and really kind of do this loft conversion and make it a home, or whether we're going to do a move further away. And that has been quite back and forth, and that has required a lot of me being in my body and tuning into my heart space and knowing what I want to do, not from a place of fear and not from a place of projecting in my mind, but in a place of kind of listening to my heart. And that's been really interesting. I had a really great meditation last week where I was really able to clearly hear my heart saying, just slow down and let what happens happens, and just stop trying to find the answers. Keep asking the questions and stop being so fixated on the outcome. And the answers are, hey Alice, nice to see you. So that's been really helpful to really hear that wisdom coming from within me, knowing that this constant fixation on finding the answer is detrimental, and actually just asking the question and being open to what unfolds and whatever the universe has in store is really beautiful and helpful. So we'll get started. I thought we would talk about boundaries today. My coffee done. So hopefully the light is not too blinding for you in the back. Boundaries is something that comes up a lot with the women that I work with, and just pretty much everyone I think has this kind of difficult relationship to setting boundaries and feeling boundaries and knowing what's appropriate and what's not appropriate. So I thought I'd talk a little bit about that, and then if you want to post in the comments how you relate to boundaries and any challenges you have, then I can always come back to them if you watch it on the replay. Just let me know with hashtag replay. So setting boundaries, what I mean by that, by setting boundaries, to be really clear, is where you are able to ascertain for yourself what is right for me in this moment and what is going to be a line where I say, I'm not available for this, or this is not suitable for me. It's knowing where your energy levels are, knowing who you can serve and who you can't serve. And it's also the main challenge, I guess, in this is always centering yourself, even though you are a giving, caring person. I know you all are here, and many of you mothers or have other people that you care for. That can be difficult. So having yourself, holding yourself in the highest regard, that you're centering your own experience as being one that is meaningful and important, that you're worthy enough to honour your own time, honour your own energy and your own space, and that you have your own needs. And so when we set boundaries, that's what we're doing. We're in our power, right? And the wild woman archetype, which I talk about quite a lot with the menstrual cycle awareness, and with in my coaching, I talk about archetypes quite a bit. And the wild woman archetype is very boundaried, and she's very much like, these are my boundaries, these are the things that I hold close to my heart, and this is what I'm available for, and this is what I'm not available for. And she makes no apology about that. Okay, well, you can catch it on the replay, Alice, if you don't get it. I'm not sure if it's my connection. Hopefully not. Yeah, so oh, I don't know if you're talking about connection as in connection like this or connection to boundaries. Anyway, yeah, so she makes no apologies about having these boundaries and saying what she is not available for. And when we set boundaries, if we see that as a line, what we're actually doing, sometimes we think of that as a constriction, as a tightening. But what boundaries actually do, if we imagine literally a boundary, a physical boundary, it creates space. Because when there's boundaries, it creates you to be able to come forward right up to that line and for other people to come forward. And it creates this space all around us in our lives and for other people. So not only does it serve us, but it actually serves the people that we have boundaries with or around. And I think that's a nice way to frame it sometimes, is by being strong in my boundaries, I am being a really strong communicator to other people of what they can expect and of what I expect from them. I think that's a really important one. Hi, Sean, good to see you. Thanks for joining me. So that's an important point, because I think what's happened, and especially for women, I think that the idea of having boundaries has somehow been misconstrued, and some conditioning going on, of course, with like there's an idea of having a wall up, that boundaries create is the same as having a wall. And maybe like if you have boundaries, it means you're a cold person, that you don't care, that you are not giving, that you're not spiritual, that you're not whatever, fill in the gap. So I'd like you to think about that. And if you've got a journal, if you're watching this on a replay, or if you've got a piece of paper now, you can write that down. Is what negative associations with having boundaries do I have? When I think of boundaries, what immediately comes in my head? What are the negative terms that come in my head? So some of mine were, like I said, being cold, being callous, being not being open, not being receiving, not being giving, right? But actually, that is not boundaries. That's having a wall up, and that's being defensive, and that's being closed off. And that's not what we're talking about. That's not the same thing. So it's separating these two ideas, and seeing boundaries as actually being an act of love, an act of self-care for sure. And when we do that, we're able to be really honest and authentic. And I don't know about you, but when there's someone that you know, like it's what you see is what you get, it just takes away so much anxiety around that person. When you know that person is very honest, you know they're going to tell it straight. It just feels like, oh, okay, I can know what's coming next. It's that feeling of unknown, and are we communicating this right, and are we getting it right, that creates this feeling of anxiety and overwhelm. Hi, Sarah, lovely to see you. So that's really important, to see boundaries as this openness and creating space. So I'd like to hear a little bit from you about kind of what challenges you have with boundaries. And while I wait for comments to come in, so I might not see them straight away, I'll talk with you about some of the kind of challenges that I hear about and that I've perhaps experienced too. One, knowing what are my boundaries. How do we know that? And I think for me, that's very much a case of tuning in with our bodies. Hi, Lisa, good to see you. Tuning in with our body and finding out if something actually feels good. Letting go of all these shoulds and have tos, like I should do that because it's an obligation. And if we're going to do something, doing it from a place of love, doing it from a place of joy, rather than a feeling of obligation and resentment and like I have to do this. And so we can reframe it as like I chose to. And if you don't want to do it, it's having that connection of like, do I actually have to do this? Is this something that's actually going to serve me or not? Recognizing that you only have a certain amount of energy and time and resources, and that you have to factor yourself into that too, and then your immediate family and who else, right? So it's figuring out whether or not this something that you have put your have to on, or your should, feels expansive. Does it feel in your body? Does it feel good? Does it feel aligned? Does it feel right? Does it feel this expansion? Or does it feel constrictive? Is there part of you that's dreading it? Is there part of you that just feels so squashed down when you think of this thing? So really tuning into the body rather than with using the mind. How does it feel within the body? So finding out what your boundaries are and what you're available for and what you're not available for. And writing those down is a really, really good idea. It kind of creates this kind of like contract with yourself, and is a really powerful way to kind of make it more tangible. So definitely suggest writing a few of your core boundaries down. And then obviously there's going to be things that come up. You know, sometimes you agree to do something and then you decide actually it's not right for me, and you have to put a boundary in there, or so you can feel within your body that it's not working for you. And then another thing would be sticking to your boundaries. I think some people are okay setting the boundary and then they feel some resistance. And again, it comes back to this not wanting to upset people, to people please, to make sure people don't think that we are um, not a kind person or whatever it might be. It's separating the thing and the boundary you have in place from yourself, recognizing that it doesn't it doesn't mean you are one way or another, like one behavior. I would say that if you're finding you're coming up with people who are very upset with your boundaries, then that's a very, very good sign to know that you definitely should have boundaries with that person. You know, the people that get most upset about your boundaries are exactly why you should have boundaries in the first place. Let me have a little look. Some things are both expansive and restrictive at the same time, affecting different areas of life and self. Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, sometimes we get into that place, and that's really, really important point. We can feel both at the same time, and that's when it's confusing. Is am I in constriction or expansion? And I think that can often get murky the more we're in our head and not in our heart and our gut space, because it's difficult to ascertain where it's coming from sometimes. So I'm a big fan of journaling and things like that to kind of get into where does this really feel like I can. And bear in mind too that you can change your mind. That's the great thing about boundaries, is you can set boundaries and then you can say, actually, I think this is better for me, or yes, I said this would work, but actually now it's not working. You're in charge. You get to choose, and you get to set your own boundaries within your own life. And if that's something that you struggle with, it's worth looking at where the patterns in my life where boundaries um, have been a big player in my life. And I think for a lot of us, coming back to childhood and things, we can look at times when boundaries felt put upon us, perhaps, and didn't feel freeing. And so the idea of not having boundaries can sometimes feels more open. But again, coming back to the idea that actually when we have boundaries, we create more space and more communication and more love and more authenticity. Yeah. So what Chan's saying, that what I'm available for, I really like that. What am I available for, but what am I not available for too? Because remembering that I'm not for everyone, that I'm not responsible for everyone. That's another thing, is having a boundary about whose stuff I pick up on. And as an empath, I pick up on a lot of people's stuff. And sometimes I think, is that my stuff to hold? Am I available to contain all of that? Or actually, do I need to protect my own energy? We can talk about that. Yeah. Absolutely. We need to be very mindful that if someone is, that is their own stuff. If someone's getting upset with you having a boundary, that's a very clear indication that you need that boundary and that's their own stuff. But by modeling your boundaries, you will actually help them in turn. It might not feel like it at the time, and they might not see it at the time, but you will help them. And then sticking with that boundary when that person's kind of, oh, go on, or pushing, or you feel like you should do something, is just coming back into where is that coming from? Is that coming from an actual change of heart because you've decided that something else works, or a compromise? Or is it coming from a feeling of coercion, a feeling of, oh, I should do this because I need to be everything, because I need to be enough? And it always comes down to, am I good enough? Every one of these topics will come down to the core of it all. That's what we all want to know as little babies in utero. Am I going to be enough? Am I going to be good enough? So if you can work it backwards, through your journaling or through your whatever work you're doing, then it usually comes back to that. And just hearing that, and having your hands on your heart and saying, am I good enough? I'm good enough, and repeating that can be really useful. So I want to just show you a way that you can, it's all very well to, yeah, okay, we'll talk about that. It's all very well to talk about this and to say, oh, we're going to have boundaries. But when it comes to it, we're talking about this feeling. And I'm an embodiment coach, so I talk about the feelings and being in the feelings and how it feels in our body. So it's important that we don't just practice it theoretically, but we practice it with our bodies. So I'll show you in a second an embodiment technique that if you're somebody who finds boundaries difficult, this might feel a bit alien to you, but really, really helpful. And you can practice it when you're kind of alone. I'm just going to read your comments. So boundaries with teenagers and children I'll talk about. Boundaries with certain people. Yes, hang on a second, I'm just going to read your comments. Yeah. So boundaries when you're having a boundary with a certain person, but you can deal with them in small doses. So that's kind of like a compromise, I guess. What you're talking about is having like some kind of like, okay, well, I'll see that person, but my boundary is that I'm not going to spend X amount of time. Is that kind of what you mean, Zara? And that's a really good idea. It's knowing, okay, I love to see this person, I love to be in their life, but I know I haven't got the energy to see them for X amount of time, so I'm going to do little and often, and that often works really well. It's knowing that. And doesn't that feel better? Doesn't the relationship feel more connected when you do that, rather than resent that you're there and then dread having to see them? Yeah, boundaries with children is not what the topic. I'm going to be touching on this in my next parenting workshop, Boundaries, quite a bit. It's talking about how we use the elements to help with parenting. So that might be one to help with that. But you can practice this embodiment technique I'm about to show you as well. Boundaries with older children, I think it's again coming from that place of like give and take, isn't it? When you're you're giving so much often as a parent, and then when you want to be boundaries, it's knowing you don't want to be strict and restrictive towards them. You still want to be there in love, but you want to be in the place of like saying, well, this is the boundary. And I think that's just tuning into like, is this coming from a should in my mind, like they should be acting like this, or I should be acting like this, or is this coming from a deep knowing, like, no, I know that this is the right thing to do? And I think when it's coming from a place within you of knowing, not of a fear or a should, like a boundary that's just arbitrary, then I think it's easier to be able to lean into that, because you're in your truth rather than you're in someone else's assumptions of what they think you should be doing. Right, so how are we doing? Okay, so I don't want to keep you too long, but I wanted to show you this technique that you can use if you're somebody who finds that boundaries are difficult, and I think we all do. You can try this, and then I'm going to leave you with a little exercise that you can do in your journals as well. So I'm going to stand up, so hopefully you can see me, and I'll move back. Let's see if you can see me. I'll move right back here. Okay, so what you do, you won't be able to see all of me, but I'm just going to direct. So you have one leg forward in like a lunge. So I'm going to use my right leg. That's in, you can't see me, but it's in like a lunge position. Let's see if I can, bent knee. I need like a different camera to do this. Anyway, so bent knee, legs wide apart. So in kind of a, yeah, I don't know any yoga terms, but in a kind of lungy type of position, but not super deep. And one leg is in front and one leg is slightly back, and your feet are facing forwards. And then with your left hand, this is if you're right-handed, you put your dominant hand in front and your other hand to the side. So for me, left hand is going to bring to the side in like a fist, and you pull, breathing in, and put it on your hip. Okay? So you're pulling and breathing it onto your hip. And then with this hand, you're going to think about the boundary that you need to set, or the person you want to set the boundary with. And so you're going to breathe in, pull up, and you're going to say, no. So you can try that again. So you can get up if you're in your living room, wherever you are watching this. not if you're on your phone in the car or something. Breathe in, pull that hand to the side, and no. And I want you to hold it there and see the person telling you all the reasons you should be doing it. Oh, you're so cold for not doing it, and you're not giving, and all these things. And feel that resistance coming towards you as you hold your hand in front of you. So keep your hand there, feel any resistance, and just tune into where you feel that in your body, where you feel that resistance coming from. But continue to feel that strength in your no. And now try this one. It's going to be, I love you, but no. Okay, so it's a bit softer. I love you, but no. And then really hold it, and I want you to notice and watch whether your hand starts to feel like it needs to retreat, whether your body starts to feel a bit shaky, or if you feel stable. So try that again. I love you, but no. I love you, but no. Keep it there. Keep it there. Keep breathing. Notice what happens to your breath. Does it get shallow? What happens to your shoulders? Good. And have a little shake. And then you can practice that. And I know that might feel a bit alien to some of you. Yeah, come along, Lisa. I'd love to have you there. That might feel a bit alien, but the reason I do that, and it's a bit strange, is because you can get a better sense when you're practicing this in your body than you can just talking about it. So these like little embodiment practices are really, really useful, and that's something you can do in your bedroom if you're somebody who finds it difficult to put boundaries up. And I really, really recommend doing that. You can do it against the wall, so you've got some resistance as well coming at you. It's great as a partnership. I can do sometimes with in-person workshops when we can touch each other. So yeah, against the wall, so you can feel some resistance as well. And feel, if you're somebody who feels like, whoa, that feels a bit strange to be in my power to say no, then this is definitely for you. If that felt really easy and good and confident, then you're probably well on your way to being good with boundaries. So let me just read you a little meditation. If you are able to take a moment. I'll read you the intro too, because I like this. This is from Wild and Wise that I've used with the menstrual cycle awareness. It's got some lovely things in here, which this one's very lovely. It's called The Power of No. No is not a word we women are invited to own and use with authority. So conditioned are we to be pleasing and accommodating that we often forget that no is an option. Consequently, our most precious resources, our attention, our time, our energy, are depleted as certainly as sands falling through an hourglass, and our well-being suffers as a result. When we tap into the wild and wise power of no, we give ourselves permission to selectively channel our sacred feminine resources and cultivate well-being and healing. So just take a moment to take a deep breath in. And as you exhale through the nose, drop in the shoulders, just take a moment just to clear your mind of any thoughts right now. And just feel your body rooted down on the ground. Feel your heart beating. If you want to close your eyes, you can, and otherwise you can leave them open. Just follow your breath in and out. Slowing down just for a moment. Good. So I invite you to imagine with me that it's morning, tomorrow morning, let's say. And tomorrow morning, as with each new day, you have access to a limited amount of time, energy, and resources. This is just the law of life. But as we all know, each new day brings with us what seems like an unlimited number of demands, expectations, interactions, reactions, plans, needs, and wants. And with each of these, we're given the opportunity to align with our most authentic selves by utilising the power of no. One of life's most fundamental truths is that when we say yes to one thing, we're always inherently saying no to something else. When we say yes to fear, we are saying no to love. When we say yes to resentment, we're saying no to connection. When we say yes to self-loathing, we are saying no to empowerment. When we say yes to manipulation, we are saying no to our inherent sovereignty. When we say yes to body shame, we're saying no to our sacredness. And just as it is with the law of life, that each time we say yes to one thing, we say no to something else, it's also true the other way around. When we say no to something, we say yes to something else. Just like I talked about, it's giving that space. When we say no to guilt, we say yes to liberation. When we say no to self-doubt, we say yes to passion. When we say no to cultural brainwashing, we say yes to self-love and to acceptance. When we say no to being a victim, we say yes to self-worth. When we say no to our shoulds, we say yes to our potential. Every day we experience countless opportunities to choose yes or no. And each moment, each interaction with others, each conversation we have with ourselves in our head is a pivotal chance to align to our sacred self, our authentic truth, and choose. And you have the power in every single moment to ask yourself what may be the most important question you will ever answer. What will I invest my precious time and energy in right now? What will I say no to so that I may allow some space to say yes to what really matters? And I'm going to leave you after I come off this with an activity you can do in what's called a writing meditation, where you just kind of do a few deep breaths, kind of suspend your mind and then try to write. So I'm going to leave you with an activity that you can do where you can explore some words and some what they call seeds. So just reflecting on this wisdom that you've tapped into yourself, I'm sure something's stirring within you, or knowing of what you are available for and what you are going to take forward. Just offer yourself a moment of gratitude and just set an intention to cultivate practice around this new awareness. You're very welcome, Terry. Commit to working on this. Commit to saying, this is something I struggle with, and I have a challenge around how can I do just a small amount, doing that no practice, that embodiment work, or doing a little bit of journaling. These are just a few minutes. How can a few minutes, if I say yes to a few minutes, what will that give me? And when you're ready, if you've been closing your eyes, you can begin to shift your focus back to your body in this present moment. And take another deep breath and open your eyes. Exhale, drop in the shoulders, and just bring your face into a smile. Just think of something that fills you with deep love and gratitude. And just notice that smile and how smiling, just the feeling of smiling, changes our chemistry. Changes it. And so one of the questions here for deeper reflection that I want to share with you is, in what ways are you currently preventing yourself from claiming the power of no? And I mean, this could lead into talks about rest and all sorts of other stuff, but I'm going to leave you with those thoughts today, and I hope that the somatic exercise I shared with you, along with the meditation and our conversation, has been food for thought and helpful. Let me know in the comments. I love to hear from you, and all our chat and back and forth is always, I always love reading it. And yeah, I shall see you again next week. I'll do a different topic next week, and I'll have details for the Elements workshop that I mentioned. Also, I have some exciting news that I am going to be doing some training as a Singing Mamas teacher, so like a choir leader, for those of you who have mentioned that you like to sing as well, and it's very natural voice singing. So it's not choir performance or anything like that, it's all a cappella, lovely songs from the heart. So those of you that are local to me in Northamptonshire, I'll have details about that soon, that hopefully in the summer we can all get together and sing in circle, which would be lovely. So I'm very excited about that. I've wanted to book on that for a long while, and I've got that starting in June, so that's exciting. And yeah, I shall leave you with those thoughts, and I hope that was helpful. Have a great Wednesday. Speak to you soon. Bye.